Hi, this is a video about the DIY activity badge for the Cubs. This is kind of an interesting one. It's one of those ones that requires a number of different tools. It can be kind of dangerous, but if you risk access it properly and your Cubs are responsible with the proper oversight, it should be absolutely possible to do. Um, Essentially, it boils down to creating something out of wood using various different tools. It doesn't have to be something big, and learning a little bit about the materials that are required to do so. In terms of things that you can sort of link into this, I'd say that uh, making um, your design basically would count towards 1/3 of the artist activity badge quite easily. Additionally to this, if you teach them how to do this and then they decide to pick it up afterwards and create a collection out of wood items they've sort of um, made themselves, then that could count towards the collector activity badge. Similarly, if they do that, they can also pick up the hobbies activity badge too. You could mention a little bit about the fire safety activity badge. Obviously, you'll be working with wood. It's a good chance to sort of show different types of wood. Perhaps you can burn a little bit of different types of wood and then show the sort of difference in how hot and how quickly it sort of burns, as well as running a fire drill and things like that potentially. Beyond this, you could talk a bit about deforestation. Obviously, wood is a renewable resource, but different parts of the world they chop it down by thousands of trees. So while unfortunately the Cubs sort of global issues activity badge isn't specifically about the environment, I'd say that one part of that can be part of the environment. Next we have perhaps mm, personal safety would be one perhaps in terms of being safe with tools and things of this nature. It's not an official part of the personal safety activity badge, but I would say that perhaps you could employ what you've learned in this DIY badge as a part of the sort of making up your own code of safety. Um, that could potentially fit together. If you want to use hardwood and you can identify a tree in your vicinity that is made of the same wood, that's a good part of the naturalist activity badge to sort of show where it came from and what it looks like, etc. Another part of the naturalist activity badge is to make a piece of art using natural material. I'd say that making this design would certainly count towards that as well. So you can do a good part of the naturalist activity badge with that. If you employ some kind of pioneering into the end design, that would be part of the pioneer badge clearly. Beyond that, unless there is something faith related to whatever they're making, there's no other badges you can really fit in. The faiths would be the world faiths or the my faith activity badge, depending on whether it's their own faith or not. Um, as I mentioned before, sort of designing something, this would be a new skill and a creative skill too. So it would be two separate parts of the R Skills Challenge Award towards the Chief Scout Silver Award. As part of the R World Challenge, if you manage to, again, make this something related to the environment, if you lean into that aspect, that's part of the R World Challenge Award. Additionally, if what you make is related to a faith or culture different to your own, that can count for part of R World as well. Or if you make something related to a festival, that would be another part of R World too. So quite a bit of R World can be ticked off. And finally, if you make this somehow related to teams in a way, perhaps people are making different parts of a box or whatever it might be that all fit together, a bit like Tetris or something. That would be part of the Teamwork Challenge Award and a Team Leader Challenge Award. Beyond that, in terms of advice, all I really have you is just don't take your eyes off the kids when they're touching the stuff. Make sure that you know, there's only one tool per group or something to not get too out of hand. They shouldn't run with these things, obviously, and the sharp points should always be pointed downwards because if they fall, you don't want those sharp points to go forwards, especially if someone stood in front of them, or sort of if they fall and it's pointed towards them, they can hurt themselves that way. So always keep screwdrivers pointed tip down, for example. Again, talk about safety on the project, especially with electric tools. Again, electricity, you can talk a bit about electrocution and things like that. If there's frayed wires or whatever the case might be, you can actually lean a little bit into frayed wires and electrical power failure as part of the home safety activity badge too. You can do, as I mentioned, different hardwood, softwood, chipboard, etc. You can do the environmental stuff there. And down here with making and designing, again, I don't need to supervise all of this. You should be able to do all this. So measure, saw, join two pieces of wood into two different ways. You can be a bit lenient on this, but you can just use a nail if you want to, and you could use tape even if you really wanted to, or you can do something really fancy with like a join, like a carpentry join that could be quite useful to teach them. Use a hammer, screwdriver, and drill, very simple stuff. Drill, they might need help holding the drill, given it can be a bit powerful depending on what setting it's on, and they can damage the drill head and stuff if they're not careful. Prepare surfaces and stain, varnish, or paint. It says stain, varnish, or paint. I'd say probably go for paint. It's the simplest one, really, although paint can get everywhere. You probably want to do this outside anyway. Staining and varnishing, as long as they don't drink the stuff or get it too much in their skin, they should be okay. Paint's a bit safer though. And that's everything for the DIY badge. Hopefully that's been useful and you can run it pretty safely. Fingers crossed. Thanks. Bye bye.